Hello everyone. In this video we are going to focus on resource acquisition and transport in plants. So as you know, the presence of xylem and phloem, these vascular tissues in land plants, has enabled the long distance transport of water, minerals and the products of photosynthesis. So we will have at least two videos covering this type of transport, and in this particular video we are focusing on the transport of the products of photosynthesis, in other words the sugar. So the movement of sugar from the photosynthetic organs, which is mainly represented by the leaves, so their movement from the leaves to the other parts of the plants. In other videos, we will focus on the other type of transport, which is transport of water and minerals from the root to the other parts of the plants. But in this video, we are focusing on the movement of sugars. So sugars are transported from the sources to the sinks via the phloem. And this transport is, or the terminology of this transport is translocation. So translocation means the transport of the products of photosynthesis, the sugars, from the producers or the sources, which is the leaves, to the sinks, so non-photosynthetic organs like the root. And this movement is taking place through the phloem. So the phloem is the plant tissue that transports the sugars. And we have another terminology, phloem sap. So phloem sap is the aqueous solution that is high in sugars and particularly sucrose. So this phloem sap will travel from a sugar source and between two brackets net producer of sugar to a sugar sink, and here also we are putting between brackets net consumer or storer of sugar. So remember, we said that leaves are the producers of the sugar. And why we are saying net producer? Because actually the leaves will consume part of the sugars for their own metabolism. However, they produce more than they consume, so we will have a net production of sugars happening in the leaves that will move. This is the phloem sap. The aqueous solution rich in sugars and mainly sucrose will move from there to the consumers or the storer organs. So the sugar is produced in the leaves, and particularly it is produced in cells called the mesophyll. So the mesophylls are the cells in which the photosynthesis and production of sugars will take place. So in this figure we have two types of mesophyll, and it has many details. Please don't worry about the extra details. What we want to focus on is the presence of the mesophyll. So the photosynthesis will actually happen here. It is covered by upper and lower layers of epidermis, and each one with cuticle and stomata and all these protective structures. Then we have the xylem and phloem, so the vascular tissue. So what we need to do, the first step, is to transport the sugar from here, from the mesophyll to the xylem and phloem, and then once it is in the xylem and phloem, it is now easy or much easier to be transported to other parts of the plants. So we will start by going through the types of transport of sugar. We have two main pathways. Number one, we have the symplastic pathway, and we have what is called also as epiplastic pathway. So this is pathway number two. So sugar can be transported by symplastic or apoplastic or both of them. So let's start with the symplast. So the symplastic means the direct cytoplasm to cytoplasm flow along the cytosol and the plasmodesmata of living cells. So you know, cytosol is the aqueous solution of the cell. Plasmodesmata is the channels in the cell wall. So these are channels in the cell walls of plant cells. So if you can see here in this figure, The cells shown in beige are the mesophyll. So these are the mesophyll where the photosynthesis will take place. Those shown here, this circle in gray, this is the vascular tissue. So we want to transport the sugars from the mesophyll to the vascular tissue as our first step. So we have two main pathways, the symplastic and epiplastic. Before going to that, please notice that the cell walls of plants, they have channels called plasmodesmata. So if we imagine that we have a sugar here, sucrose is accumulating here, so it can pass directly from one cell to another, like flowing through the aqueous solution, the cytosol, and passing through the plasmodesmata from one cell to another, following this blue route from one cell to another, like that. So the symplastic pathway is involving continuity of the cells and their connections through the plasmodesmata, so the sugar can like sneak between these gaps from one cell to another. However, this transport can also happen through the epiplastic pathway, and the word epiplast means everything external to the plasma membrane, and this includes the cell walls, the extracellular spaces. So here, shown here in orange, this is the plasma membrane. So if you can see it here, this is the plasma membrane in orange. Anything outside this plasma membrane, so all this area, is considered as epiplast because it is outside the plasma membrane. So if we have a sugar accumulating here, it can pass in this purple or pink color, and this pathway is considered epiplastic because it is a pathway involving structures external to the plasma membrane. So this is an epiplastic route, but if the sugar will move in this pathway, the blue pathway, this is a symplastic route that involves moving through the cytosol and the plasmodesmata. So here is this channel, the plasmodesmata, so the sugar can move like that. One thing to notice in the previous slide, that sometimes the sugar may need to cross the plasma membrane. And why I'm saying sometimes, because if the sugar will move through this blue pathway, the symplastic pathway, it may never encounter a cell membrane, and by that it may never need to cross the cell membrane. However, if the sugar moves like that and it moves in this direction here, can you see here this is the plasma membrane, if you remember, you see it here in this figure. So this is the plasma membrane. At this step, the sugar needs to cross the plasma membrane. That's why in next slides we are going to show how the sugar may cross the plasma membrane, because sometimes this is a requirement for the pathway that the sugar is following. However, in some other cases, the transport can take place without the need of crossing the plasma membrane. So if it will cross the plasma membrane, now it is outside the plasma membrane, it will follow the it will follow the epiplastic pathway, this one shown here in pink. So the epiplastic pathway, or the symplastic is the one shown in blue. Okay.